Good morning. Welcome back to BarnesBasics. In this playlist, we are talking about stoichiometry as used in chemistry. I need you to please download and print 3 different charts from the internet. And the first one that I want to talk about is the periodic chart of the elements. The reason that we need the periodic chart of the elements is that we need to be able to find the mass per mole of each element that we are going to be discussing. In the beginning of this playlist, we're going to be talking about mercury oxide. So mercury at 200.59 grams per mole is important in our calculations. And also oxygen at 15.99 grams per mole will be used in these beginning calculations. As we progress through the playlist, we'll be using other numbers in this periodic chart. Another important downloadable is a chart that has rules for significant figures. As we go along, I will be talking about these different rules. It's just important in scientific calculations to not have answers that are more specific than the original numbers, and these give us some guidelines to make that happen. Next, I would possibly like you to download a moles flow chart, and then in a minute we're going to pause and write down these stoichiometry problem rules. When solving stoichiometry problems, the first thing is that it's important to have a balanced equation. That is of utmost importance. So if you're struggling with that, I have another playlist on YouTube which addresses that very thing. Please write these down, and I'll try to talk rather slowly so that you can do this. So step number 1 is to write the balanced equation. Step number 2 is to write what information is given on the left and the desired answer on the right. Make sure you leave some space in the middle so that we can bridge from the left to the right to get our final answer. When we show mole proportions represented in the balanced equation, that is the middle part of the bridge. Step number 4, determine the mass of 1 mole of each substance, comes into play in the second and fourth step, especially if we're going from grams of one substance to grams of another. And number 5, estimate the answer. This is just good practical science. That way, if you start with a number in single digits, a 5 or a 4 or something like that in the answer, if you get something in the millions, that's obviously probably not going to be legitimate, especially if there aren't any other numbers in the calculations that are in the millions. So it's a good job to estimate your answer before you start. I don't always do a good job at that, but it is a good thing to talk about. So there are 5 steps. Number 1, write the balanced equation. Number 2, what is given goes on the left. What is desired goes on the right. Number 3, the mole proportions are represented in the balanced equation. Usually this is the very center part of the bridge, especially if we're going from grams to grams. Number 4, determine the mass of 1 mole of each substance. This can be done by looking at the periodic chart and looking at each individual balanced chemical formula. This would be step 2 and step 4 in a gram to gram conversion. And then lastly, estimate the answer. And this is going to give us a good place to start for doing stoichiometry problems for chemistry. Marvelous.